Welcome to Bath and Body Works.
After a long year, dealing with one drama avalanche after another bullshit show, it's been noted that the commentary community needs quite a bit of reform. See, certain characters have gotten a little too comfortable with where they are, forgotten how to speak the truth, find any and all evidence they could get their hands on, carefully analyze everything, and present the situation without additive floof. I'm being a bit serious about describing this because, well, if you couldn't tell, being a commentator that talks about the devious actions or harmless mistakes of other fellow creators for the public jury to make collective decisions on, to either continue supporting or coldly shun said creator, makes you sound like both a journalist and a lawyer. Right? Lately, as the perception of public groupthink has changed, things have unfortunately been presented in more of a black and white standpoint.
So, this person's bad, and this person's good. This is my favorite creator. So what they say is 100% the truth. I can't even think for myself, but it's fine.
Shut up, you ugly!
Nowadays, when the public court of opinion gives its verdict, the punishment never measures up well against the charges of the accused. Either the person gets unnecessary hate and shunned, or a slap on the wrist. And of course, that depends on the factor of that person's history, what the story was, how much or little they were liked before the story dropped. You get the point. The aim for this video is to show a timeline of all major dramas that I personally feel have severely affected a portion of the commentary community. Now, in order for this to make sense, I'll have to give a bit of context, as we'll be visiting a time that seems much different than right now. The time frame was late 2019 to early 2020. During the early days of the coronavirus, chaos ensued. While the outside world was busy burning itself down, the internet was also lit ablaze with many accusations, confrontations, and subsequent condemnations of people, their images, brand, and leaving them without a platform and any way to spread their heinous acts. These people were, in my personal words, the pedo bears of the YouTube sphere that needed to be outed so they can stop causing damage to all the children and young fans that were unfortunate enough to get close to these creators. Now, I definitely was not expecting all of the outings in the pedonami, and at the time I was tempted to talk about it, but obviously never did, especially with Cryotic. Like,
I was rooting for you! We were all rooting for you! How dare you!
I liked his content, even though I have realized with certain old creators, I wondered why I stopped watching their content for a time. Even Red Wolf and Yami Mash, while not called out in the pedonami, I'm pretty sure, they've been caught doing some sketchy stuff behind the scenes too, and that bothers my soul so much. But besides that, because we've all been stuck inside for a year and some change, people have been getting bored with themselves and have escaped into their favorite virtual lives of influencers and the environment that is social media. In the pre-pandemic era of the commentary community, things were relatively calm, I guess. I'll be 100% honest with you, it was hard to fill out the atmosphere of pre-pandemic commentary community, but I'm pretty sure it was just a bunch of people talking about things that interested them and uploading those thoughts to YouTube. So not that different, I guess. However, the difference between then and now is that people weren't so childish and emotional. Well, most of the community, that is. Not gonna name names, but y'all know how it goes.
Well, if the boot fits...
Say that again.
If the boot fits.
One of the habitats we'll be discussing today will be the commentary community in the little drip in the vast ocean that is YouTube. Recently, as drama started to rise and fall, there were some cracks being exposed in the foundation of the community, and people started to notice how untrustworthy some creators are while also being too concerned with empty alliances. And with that, let's talk about the Tobi drama.
Tara, you want some?
So this all started from one creator, Kai Wise, who had created a video calling out someone by the name of Toby on her little sketchy moment, which was her being upsetty spaghetti about her favorite YouTube creators, PewDiePie, Gabby Hanna, and Shane Dawson, out of all people, being called out and held accountable for their shitty actions. Well, it was more than a moment, since this drama was of course the starter of most of what we're going to get into in a little bit. Later, he made a collab with Omnia to again call out Toby on her questionable actions of drawing Todoroki and Usagi, which are both minors, in not safe for work art, but then had previously said that people who draw not safe for work art that involves minors are pedo bears, which of course is true, but doesn't make sense when you do it and seem to not follow the same rules. After the collab, however, things went south. Toby stated that she was going to defend herself, which in turn would expose Omnia for being a liar. Because of that, Omnia had exposed their DMs to show that she wasn't cutting things out of context and that Toby was trying to assassinate her character by saying so. Now, for some reason, this particular point was a hill some wanted to die on to criticize Omnia, stating that leaking a private conversation was against the law and that Omnia was a bad person for it. I'm going to say this now. That was a dumbass critique point. I'm sorry. Have you seen other people's drama where their DMs are leaked? I can tell you right now that in many dramas involving creators and their private convos being exposed, they're not bitching about it being illegal. While yeah, it takes two people to converse, you don't need that other person's permission to let everyone else know what's going on, especially if that other person is lying on your name.
Stop playing with my name. I ain't gonna say it no more.
When it comes to internet drama, it doesn't really matter the semantics of leaked DMs since it most likely gives more context on the drama itself. Hence, it could have been the inciting incident. Anyways, while the OGs were going at each other's throats, there were many others that chose their sides in the drama and, well, most of those takes weren't very good. Now let's get into the details of where the problem started. Other than the reason I gave above, many of the creators that weren't initially or originally involved weren't addressing the situation in the best way possible, most of which was in essence giving Toby a slap on the wrist, but giving both Kai and Omnia unnecessary scrutiny, with questionable and unstable reasons. Many creators have received their own backlash from this, and also in the midst, we somehow had an unproductive conversation on race here, and I'm not gonna get into it because it's not important or worth my time to get into. It was dumb, and I'll leave it at that. Interestingly enough though, given the time in which all this was occurring, I personally despise that race had to be in this. Yeah, this is a politically charged reason, one that is quite a sensitive topic and deep-rooted in the reality that is American history and all, but it shouldn't have been brought into a situation which just deals with the content someone made rather than the color of their skin. This is the way it should stay. Now, with the Tobi drama subsiding, there were a few things brewing in the shadows that would also end up adding a few more cracks into the foundation of the community that made people a little wary of trying to trust the word of commentary channels when they couldn't keep it themselves. This situation was definitely one that resulted in a lot of whiplash responses and updates, oodles of bandwagoning and flip-flopping by much of the commentary community. Pyrocynical, a YouTuber, was accused of being a groomer by a person named Ivory Rasmus who was 15 while Pyro was 19 at the time of this interaction. Now, while we all know that he's not a groomer, just a guy with interesting kinks, it's still a little disturbing to have these sexually charged conversations with someone that isn't of legal age if you've already passed that point yourself. Now, and all of the noise that is a commentary crusade to be the first to report the story, there was instant victim blaming, or in this case just instant assuming that Ivory was a clout chaser and that Pyro could do no wrong and it was all a lie. There were also videos that went in the opposite direction, claiming that Pyro was in fact guilty and must pay for his crimes. You know, burned the degenerate furry at the stake. At the end of the day, it was just some kinky talk that got exposed and it just looks morally questionable. But most commentators were too quick to take a stance on who was guilty or innocent off the bat when they didn't have enough evidence to even claim these things. Also, Pyro's girlfriend gave her 2 cents, which didn't really help the case either. So yeah, that happened. Regardless, this was very disgraceful for the community, and the constant wavering on your standpoint because you're too hyper to get first dibs on a story and get those sweet views. Like, you know, I get it. You gotta appease the YouTube algorithm, but with something serious like dealing with grooming accusations and someone possibly thinking of the children in very unsettling ways, there's no room to give a verdict when you're not 100% confident in your sources. So stories like that should be handled with care. While this should have been an open and closed case, something else was brewing in the background from when we left the Tobi drama, and there's one component that stayed the same in all these dramas, but we'll address him later. Now, I'm going to preface this part by saying I do not feel like going over this drama, as Malice and Macaroons has made 2 wonderful feature-length movies going into a deep dive on everything and everyone, and also giving an objective outside take on it all. Go send her some love and appreciation for all her hard work. Essentially, Peaches has been caught with a bitter list of offenses on her rap sheet. Even though a few of those have been addressed already, she still was forced to take accountability for past and present actions. See, as more people were becoming aware of what Peaches was doing, being a bad friend to Queep Show, being dismissive and a bit defensive with Omnia and by extension Kai, and well, those are the only 2 valid points in all this mess, and before everyone tries to confiscate my weed to punish me, hear me out for a second.
Okay.
And don't touch my fucking weed, okay? Avrona at the time was a less than ideal guy to be around and interact with because he can't seem to not play the victim while blaming everything else for his lack of success on YouTube after being a creator for about 8 years. He was described to be the type of guy that will ask for help, but then would give you reasons why your advice won't help because they've tried everything already, or it doesn't matter what he does, he'll never be able to grow because curse you, algorithm, and we get it. With Camilla, Peaches was shown to have been quite remorseful and had apologized for saying that Camilla didn't give her credit on the art collab they did and the post she made on Camilla when she tried to sell said collab, because that could have just stayed private. I can say that from the initial response that Camilla gave when Peaches apologized the first time, she wasn't the nicest or open to accepting the apology. Now with Peaches' recent apology, Camilla had accepted it, and I'm just gonna say she seems to have matured over the years and just wants to move on from this mess. Other players in the game, like Creepshow Art, could be understandably upset with Peaches since she saw her as a sister and was hurt by how she was abandoned. Kai and Omnia have their own reasons to not be cool with Peaches, considering their personal experiences with her wasn't the best. Luke, we'll get to him later. But then at some point, there was a shift. Well, in the beginning, we were witnessing people just wanting her to take accountability, although some approaches were mildly disciplinary to almost scarily apathetic. She came back with a video that wasn't very good in its execution to explain her side and apologize for what she did. She then took time away and did her best to learn from some of the constructive criticism that was made. When it was being said that some were trying to show that Peaches wasn't as bad as most were making her out to be, there was some uproar and some more not good takes. I want to remind everyone something that bothered me throughout this whole thing. Peaches suffers from a mental illness. And no, I'm not saying that she shouldn't be called out on the past mistakes that she's done. I mean, shit, even she acknowledged that she was a terrible person at times and that there's a bit she needs to work on. That's a very good thing, since realizing there's a problem is a great start. But the problem starts when people don't realize that someone with mental illnesses like depression, anxiety, or literally anything else can make you act out of character or do and say really fucked up things. At least in Peaches' case, she really hasn't had the best comeback. She's had to leave social media a number of times due to waves of harassment from the vocal minority of assholes that have nothing better to do than to send death threats or say that she's lying about her grooming experience, because you know what they say.
Well, she's lied about other things, so maybe this isn't true either.
Which, if you genuinely think that way, the person who's actually sick in the head is you. I don't want to say she's super fragile, but she just needs some support to get better, not a dogpiling of disapproval with almost everything she does, and harassment and whining over little stupid things like a thumbnail. But as of fixing the script because of this update, Peaches has come back with a really good video explaining her side of the story, so please give that a watch. Link will be in the description below. Now let's get into the charges of one jailbird that has been involved with the past few dramas I've described and has gotten into some petty drama herself.
I have a banana peel on the ground. I'm gonna see if it's really slippery like it is in the cartoon.
Now here is where we're probably gonna get a little sassy here. One thing that was a common denominator in all the previous dramas I spoke on was our favorite YouTube convict prison mate, Luke. I've made 2 videos on him already. Justop has made 2 critique videos going into detail on Luke, while also getting caught in the storm that was Luke, and there are plenty more from other creators calling him out on his mess, so I'll link a playlist in the description. Essentially, Luke was a fellow commentator in the Tobi Drama, and was one of the few that was sticking up for Kai and Omnia while the rest were giving them more attention than necessary. As a part of the audience at the time, I genuinely appreciated it. They weren't worthy of the criticism they were getting. He was also one of the commentators that gave their 2 cents in the Pyrocynical drama, and as I mentioned previously, a lot of those takes weren't good, as there were a lot of blaming, and like everyone else who was trying to be the first one to say what was happening, Luke was no better here. He was quite
bold and brash
with his assumptions, but later recognized that those assumptions
belongs in the trash,
which, you know, that was awesome, even though put a pin in that because I'll bring this up again later. Last but not least, Luke was also the whistleblower on what was happening behind the scenes with Peaches and the Tobi drama, though his initial call out did not age well. Oh, and had called Just a Robot racist, 2 teens pedo protectors, got involved with high school drama with 2 teens because he was angry with one of them, and still has yet to apologize for his involvement in using bad claims to say heinous things about Peaches or Jar or other people. Explanations for all in these videos. Luke, in retrospect, was a guy who grew too fast for himself and hasn't yet registered that you have a little more responsibility now that you have tens of thousands of people listening to you. Not sure how accurate that is now with the view comparison to all of the subs you have, but you still have a platform nonetheless. I've taken a look at his last 3 videos to see if he's made any improvements, and at least in his ghetto ASMR expose, he's been getting all the evidence he can find, I assume, using screenshots correctly as well, and he even laughed in his video. Aw, Luke, I guess you do have a soul to save. At the end of the day, I know that so far, Luke has somewhat suffered for his actions in the past, and I can see a little light at the end of the tunnel for him. But I'm just gonna leave a glimpse of hope for him and move on, as this last topic I'm gonna get into, as being the most recent, is without a doubt the dumbest shit that had too many people waste brain power and time on, and it was all cause some stupid bird got his feathers ruffled, and instead of just fixing them, he decided to call in his bevy to do his bidding, and ended up just getting everyone's wings clipped. To put it mildly, the John Swan drama was such a stupid and unnecessary thing that got blown up because someone just couldn't bite the bullet and admit to doing some dumb stuff and has learned to not do the same ish again. Although from his past, he's not really learned his lesson. Now first, I'm gonna mention again that there's a video by Willie Mac Show that does a good deep dive on the John Swan drama, so go check that out for sure. But to summarize, John Swan, who was once hailed as a pinnacle of integrity, objectivity, and honesty, got called out by Minecraft YouTuber Dream for impersonating him and saying some quite distasteful things as Dream to other people. And one particular person. What? With the most notable person being Harley. Now, to say that this shouldn't have been a drama to begin with is an understatement. but it does bring to light something that's quite alarming. There's another creator named Pyman, and he's had a very bad interaction with John Swan. Pyman is a 15-year-old creator who, by John Swan's logic, was accused of being a little pedo bear in the making because he was being flirty with a 12-year-old girl. A 15-year-old boy was being flirty with a 12-year-old girl. That's middle school ages at best for both of them. And you have the absolute gall to claim that this kid is doing something bad here? Are you kidding me?
Bitch, are you dumb?
Pardon me?
Are you dumb?
I think she's dumb. I think she's dumb.
Are
you, like, medically speaking, are you, like...
Like, I'm not trying to be mean. Like, are you dumb?
I think she's dumb.
I think she's dumb.
I think she's dumb. Do you think
she's dumb.
What makes this worse is that after John proceeded to live stream his personal hot garbage take of calling a kid a pedo for being a kid liking another kid, Pyman posted a tweet saying that he was going to post his last video and then try to game over himself. And John Swan then weaponized this kid's poor mental health cry for help against him after John lied saying that he was trying to help him. Something about this sounds familiar, yeah? Long story short, this kind of gave everyone the clear picture that John Swan isn't the trustworthy guy he portrayed himself as. And of course, because of this, during his drama with Dream, all the commentators that defended him ended up getting their credibility fractured a bit because he didn't want to man up and own his mess. Oh, and to put the cherry on top, the thing that bothers me the most in this is when John was coming up with his garbage excuse as to why his Discord account was impersonating Dream. He said it was an autistic 12-year-old boy. Now, John, I'm not sure why you had to add the fact that the kid had to be on the autistic spectrum, because let's be honest, just saying it could have been some snot-nosed little 12-year-old boy would have been a bit more realistic and enough to accept, as, you know, kids are kind of stupid and can be absolute housebonds if they really wanted to. But I personally don't think you needed to add the autistic part. Just a bit distasteful if you ask me, and also kind of reminds me of another poor autistic representation, but we're not gonna go there. Before I end this off with my personal thoughts, I want to pass this off to someone who wants to address the fans who haven't really helped in these types of situations either.
When it comes to the fans itself, there's always going to be some kind of dilemma with them, really. Usually comes with them defending their favorite creator no matter what, or them just being gullible enough to believe misinformation. This always often happens, because rather they just don't want to believe that their favorite creator is a horrible person, or sometimes they could be gullible enough to believe misinformation. And usually it was from Pedonami Luke, sometimes Creepshow, and even the Turkey Man who did a Google Doc, but at the same time people really believe him. Like, come on. Like, we need to learn that not every single information that we're gonna get from these commentary YouTubers will be really informational. Sometimes we gotta step back and then just look at it like there's something fishy going on with this information. I understand that commentary communities are supposed to give you information about current dramas or something like that, but we have to learn that not everything that we're gonna be fed is something good, or at least somewhat relatable, or somewhat informational, if that makes sense. But we all have to learn to not just blindly follow the other one, because as the example of the Pyro situation, Pyro was being defended non-stop and then calling Ivory a cloud chaser and all this other stuff. But then when Turkey Tom released his video, people were starting to believe Pyro may be a groomer. And then after his documentary, and then after Pyro's response, they were like, "Oh, Pyro, you're innocent. I mean, you have some weird ass kinks, but you're so innocent." And then when Turkey Tom released his Google document, people were like, "No, Pyro, why? Why are you a groomer?" And it's like, what the fuck? Why is everybody so going a bit more flip-floppy than ever? Like, seriously. Like, we should stop doing that. Especially for the people who are good fans, but at the same time they could be gullible, that they could be a bit manipulated, who can be manipulated into believing the wrong information. And that's actually dangerous as well, because it could ruin someone's reputation as well. Just like with the Peach's situation. Prism Luke and Creepshow Arts were a bit misinformed, especially with the part where she said, well, she's trying to suicide bait us. Like, first of all, that's a bit fucked up just to accuse someone like that. Second of all, where's the evidence that she's legitimately trying to bait people with suicide? Like, seriously. I encourage the people to just stop and think about the information we're given. Because if we do not take our own time to look up what's happening, then we're just gonna be pawns of a scheme, really. And that's what Turkey Tom did. We were basically pawns in the scheme to ruin Pyro's reputation, and luckily Pyro did make a good response, but that's not the main point. The main point is of how someone could easily give the impression that they're informative, and that they could spread misinformation or manipulate the information, and then people will often take the other person's side without really doing their own research. I understand that not everybody has the time to do their own research and stuff like that, etc. But you have to learn that not everything, and as I said before, not everything is gonna be spoon feed you. So please, do not try to be flip-flopping to every single damn side because you like this certain creator, or you like this certain people, or you trust this worthy, credible person, because look at the John Swan situation. How are people gonna take his credibility now after he lied about the dream situation? That's all I have to say right now. So just please do not be flip-flopping. Do not try to be one-sided. Try to be neutral.
These specific instances in particular have really irked me, as many of the creators in these dramas I once admired. Some I still do, some I can't forgive just yet, and others I personally wish the best but have lost all respect for. They brought to the forefront some problems that plague this community: being bad at taking constructive criticism, refusing to take responsibility, valuing image over substance, and lazy research, to name just a few. I don't know how many times I need to say this, but this community is something that I've grown to love and appreciate. Like, I don't watch TV news, so this is my replacement. I also love seeing the passion and effort people have to put in videos that take a lot of time and energy to make, kind of like what I'm doing here. In my eyes, this community has done a lot of good to call out those who are making easily fixable mistakes, to learn and grow from to become better people, and especially to those who have taken advantage of their platform in nefarious ways. This community has called to action many who have fully understood and taken to heart the phrase, "With great power comes great responsibility," and constructed their platforms to be places where you can get the truth no matter how silly or unpleasant it may seem, to keep us all on the lookout to weed out those who wish to do harm to the defenseless. And I really appreciate them for it. I really don't want all the hard work that some creators that are merely associated with this community to be questioned on their credibility because others want to shirk their responsibilities because their ego got a little too big for themselves. And so that bulb needs to be popped to keep the community in check from time to time. I, being a newcomer to the community and being human, am not going to make false promises that I won't make any mistakes while making videos that pertain to other creators. I will, however, do my absolute best to keep the story straight and be honest and transparent with my work. Hell, I asked several people to look over the script because I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything and it all made sense. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Go support TheCandyGamer. He's a cool and goofy dude that makes good content. Also support everyone else that I mentioned in this video. Like, share, and subscribe for future videos. Comment your thoughts so we can start a conversation in the community. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that trying to recount everything that happened correctly is tiresome. Got me out here like... But anyways, I love you all. Hello to my newest subs, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye!